The name rings familiar while the story behind it has faded. Today we profile the embattled presidential candidate, Lyndon Larouche. He was born in New Hampshire of Quaker parents in 1922. He knew social battles at an early age. His parents engaged in a factional dispute against a Quaker-aligned group they saw as too liberalizing. In keeping with his Quaker beliefs, he served in the U.S. Army in World War II as a conscientious objector. He was assigned to India, where he was impressed by the movement to liberate that country from British colonial rule. He enrolled at Northeastern University in Boston, but did not obtain a degree. Larouche later worked in business as a management consultant solving production problems. He began with the knowledge he acquired from his father in shoe manufacturing and later assisted other industries, such as a bookbindery and a machinery firm. In this period, his interests turned to socialist politics and the labor movement. He relocated to New York City, where he cycled through various leftist political and labor groups. Larouche became disenchanted with what he called the fraud of Marx's economics. His knowledge of this social science grew, and he began making long-term economic forecasts. He also taught courses in economics in the neighborhood of Columbia University, though not necessarily as an employee of the institution. Larouche and his associates stood in opposition to the so-called New Left, which they believed was an internationally astroturfed movement aided by the rock, drug, sex counterculture. They formed labor committees and in 1974 began the Executive Intelligence Review, the flagship publication of the Larouche movement. Rather than publishing news, Larouche urged the gathering of intelligence that would serve their growing movement. Throughout the decades, Larouche and associates wrote scores of books in addition to their regular periodicals. His fame grew after he debated a celebrated economics professor at Queens College. He first ran for president in 1976, forming the U.S. Labor Party for that purpose. His organization paid $100,000 to show a half-hour campaign special on NBC the month before the election. With this new national profile, Larouche claimed that deadly threats increased against himself and his wife, German-born journalist Helga Larouche. Leftist terrorism and violence increased around this time. German executive Hans-Martin Schleyer was kidnapped and later murdered by the Red Army faction. Larouche's organization hired security experts to mitigate these threats, including Colonel Mitchell Verbel. Larouche in the late 70s formulated theories that would aid the development of President Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative, or Anti-Ballistic Missile Defense Program. Despite running for president on the Democratic ticket in 1980, Larouche formed a temporary partnership with the Reagan administration on SDI. Other forward-thinking public campaigns included Larouche's push for nuclear fusion energy and his advocacy for colonies on Mars. For years, Larouche associates set up fundraising tables at airports to boost the movement. His strict requirements of his die-hard supporters contributed to the branding of the organization as a cult. In 1986, 400 government agents converged on Larouche-linked properties in Leesburg, Virginia, seizing thousands of documents. Larouche claimed a biased Justice Department conducted this baseless raid to punish a rising political rival before the 1988 election season began. He was later convicted of fraud and served 5 years in prison. He continued to run for president and was on every ballot from 1976 to 2004. Many books and articles by Larouche and associates can be found on archive.org and on the dedicated website larouchelibrary.org. Monetary reform and economic theory dominate the works, but there is also plenty of material for the conspiracy-minded. For instance, Larouche wrote that history is a struggle between those of the Aristotelian mindset, really the oligarchic controllers, and those of a Platonic mindset, or the humanists. Other recurring themes include the Tavistock Institute's mind control techniques, the machinations of the British monarchy and its involvement in the international dope trade, critique of Freudian psychoanalysis, and the rock, drug, sex counterculture. Whatever your take on the often outlandish ideas of Lyndon Larouche, there's no denying that he left his mark on late 20th century politics.